So there's an interesting approach to desire in the ancient texts of non-duality and mysticism as compared to the way that I see desire in the seeker's journey. They're connected, but there's a little bit of a difference, right? So in the traditional texts, you basically have the idea, and this is true across Hinduism, Buddhism, and probably others, right, of turning away from all desire for sensual pleasure, turning away from all desire for finding happiness in the world through family, through relationships, through glory, through career, right? Not to say that one shouldn't do their duties, but that one should turn away from seeking fulfillment in any of these things. And the reason is because they are delusory pleasures. They're not real. They are, as the famous text Tripura Rahasya says, it's like someone has been burned all over their body and then applies this sort of ointment to their body to temporarily relieve the pain. That's what worldly pleasures are like. That's what seeking fulfillment in the world is like. Every pleasure is a seed of a future misery because you have it and then you want more and then you can't get it, or you do get it and then it's threatened because it's going to go away, right? So one way or the other, you're always looking at this issue of misery being connected to seeking fulfillment in the world. It applies even to things like creativity and things like that, right? Even that is a kind of seeking fulfillment in the world, even though it's in solitude. So the traditional teaching is abjure all of that, turn your back to that kind of fulfillment with knowledge, right? The knowledge of their temporariness, of their misery, and turn towards the spiritual. And in the Vedantic tradition, right, this is called vairagya or dispassion, right? The idea of one of the qualifications, one of the key qualifications of a seeker being that they have a kind of helpful disgust with the world, you might say, that enables them to turn away from it and towards the spiritual. So I don't necessarily exactly disagree with any of these things, except that my approach is a little bit different. Instead of saying use this knowledge and using willpower, turn away from these pleasures, I say be honest about what it is your emotional state is. Be honest about all the things that you desire. Admit them into your consciousness, right? Allow yourself to know what it is that you want, which is, I mean, it's not a simple, easy process. It's not like you snap your fingers and know what you want. It's an iterative process that you get to know yourself through things like psychoanalytic psychotherapy and expressing yourself and really trying different things and seeing how you feel about them, and then, trying other things, right? And going on and on. And through this process, you come into greater and greater alignment of what it is that you think you want with what it is that you actually want. Because ultimately, one has to be kind of aligned to the other if you're to have a quiet mind, right? Honesty is considered one of the great virtues in the spiritual traditions, as in sort of regular ethics. And the meaning of that honesty is emotional honesty, meaning that you're honest about your feelings with yourself. And again, not an easy thing that you can just will yourself to accomplish. But my idea is that this idea of knowledge and willpower doesn't really work all that well, because you can know something is not that great for you, but you can still pursue it. You can quote unquote know it, right? That knowledge is not really, you could argue it's not real knowledge because it's just a surface knowledge. Okay, I read that smoking is bad for me, but I still want to smoke. Well, why is that? It's because smoking is connected to various unconscious issues, emotional baggage, as we say, right? And you're better off admitting that you want to smoke. Admit it fully, honestly, embrace it wholeheartedly, right? Um, Maybe part of you doesn't want to, and that part should also be admitted into consciousness as well, right? And this conversation should go on, right? It's not a black or white thing. I'm not saying necessarily that, oh, you want to smoke now, therefore you must smoke forever. No, it's not about making these black or white decisions for all time. It's about engaging in this sort of flow, this conversation of inner voices, and not trying to tyrannically crush yourself into one particular path, right? But to flow along the path of least resistance and to be honest about what it is that you currently want, allowing yourself to change as that goes on, because that will happen. As you become honest about what you want, as you pursue it, as you experiment, as you look inward, your desires will change because you will see for yourself how the old wisdom is true, that seeking fulfillment in the external transient things isn't really all that helpful, right? And so you will naturally turn away your attention from those things, but it will happen through that process of honesty. You even see it in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, that the person who turns away from the pleasures of the world but still has a secret desire for them is hypocritical. It's not actually an admirable thing. What you want is honesty, the honesty in your thought, in your heart, in your action, that should say, yes, I do want this and I'm going for it. Whether or not it's quote unquote good for me or not, I'm still going for it because it's what I actually emotionally want. And again, what that even means is not something that's necessarily obvious, because what is it that I want? Is it what I felt right now? Is it something that spans over a week, right? The entire process of looking into yourself and trying to understand what it is that you want is a complicated process. It's not as simple as looking and knowing. What you want 1 second might not be what you want 3 seconds from now. And seeing that is itself something that will help you understand the futility of that kind of desire, right? So this process of attempting to become honest about what you want is an education in the futility of desire. But you have to go through that education. You have to engage. You can't try to short circuit the process, because that's not where you are at emotionally, right? If you aren't there emotionally, it doesn't matter what you quote unquote intellectually say, it's not going to happen. Nor should you try to make it happen. You should go where you want to go as best you know it, and be open and allow new things to go in. And that is going to be what's transformational. That's what's going to ultimately give you the disgust with, sufficient disgust with worldly pleasures. That's what's going to give you the belief that something more, or something deeper, or something more permanent has to be turned towards. And that's what's going to give you the quietness of mind to ultimately pursue the spiritual. So that's my view of how this sort of dispassion for desire ought to be generated. It ought to be generated through this process of iterative honesty about what you want, through an attempted self-examination, through therapy and other means, through self-expression and art, and through trying different things and seeing how they make you feel. One more thing I'll add, which is, even though, of course, ultimately you can't get happiness through various objects of desire, you can, generally speaking, align yourself to situations that are healthier and that are more conducive to your well-being. And the way you get there, again, I believe, is honest pursuit of desire, honest admission of desire, honest pursuit of desire, and then honest change of desire as the desires change, right? You will find yourself yes, in career situations, in family situations, in relationship situations that are, in fact, better for you because you've been able to move through this honest process, which allows for the admission of your emotional reality and then learning from it. That learning can only happen because you honestly pursue in the first place.